The story begins the day before the high school cultural festival. The protagonist, Atego, a first-year student from Class 4, feels tense under the heavy weight of his package. To him, the cultural festival is merely an event for ordinary people to attend and socialize, and he's only participating to avoid upsetting his classmates. Atego is the type who prefers staying out of the spotlight, watching others take charge. Standing at the classroom door, he debates dropping off the package and heading home as quickly as possible. But suddenly, a girl crashes into him, sending them both tumbling to the ground. The girl is Shimizu Roman, someone Atego struggles to handle. She stands up, apologizes with a bow, and leans close to his face, leaving him flustered and speechless. Shimizu then mentions they're in the same class, though she's never noticed him before. Atego stares at her, stunned by her bluntness, which overwhelms him. She chuckles lightly, and he mumbles that she probably overlooked him because he doesn't stand out. Curious, he asks what she's carrying and if she's helping with the festival too. Shimizu explains she's working on the haunted house and a few other projects. Atego smiles, admitting he didn't know she was involved. Inwardly, he reflects that Shimizu always speaks her mind without hesitation. Watching her, he decides he needs to leave fast. Shimizu thrives at the center of the normal crowd, always shining, while he's the complete opposite, a loner by nature. Back in middle school, he dreamed of becoming a manga artist, but it frustrated him that he felt like a side character with no unique traits. Though he had a stellar debut during those years, he got carried away, and it backfired spectacularly. Looking at Shimizu now stirs up those old memories, and he finds it unbearable. Returning to the moment, Shimizu picks up the box from the floor and asks if it was too heavy for him to carry. She offers to help him take it to the classroom. Atego tries to protest, but several boys in the class jump up, eagerly offering to assist Shimizu instead. People naturally gravitate toward her, while Atego remains the quiet manga drawing outcast, her polar opposite. Just then, a girl bursts into the classroom, shouting for someone who can draw zombies. They need one for the haunted house poster, and it's proving tricky. Another classmate points out that Atego can draw zombies and approaches Shimizu, mentioning she didn't know this about him since she didn't attend their middle school. Atego panics, hoping she won't spill his past to Shimizu. He's buried those days and doesn't want them unearthed. But the girl doesn't hold back, revealing to Shimizu that Atego won an award as a manga artist in middle school. Shimizu turns to him, wide-eyed, and asks if it's true, calling it incredible. Atego meets her gaze, shocked, unable to believe she sees it that way. She presses further, asking if he's practically a professional. Flustered, he insists it's not like that. It was just a one-shot. Shimizu disagrees, saying it's still a big deal. She asks if he's won anything else, and Atego starts to unravel, overwhelmed by her acceptance of his history. Then Shimizu requests to see some of his drawings, eager to witness a pro at work. The other girl chimes in, shouting that she wants to see too, adding that Atego looks like a manga sensei and should draw something for them. He stares at them, dumbfounded, thinking that refusing might make things awkward. But every time he tries to draw, flashbacks and the sting of past failures flood back. Atego sits down, reluctant, figuring he should just get it over with quickly. The thought alone makes him queasy. When Shimizu asks if he's okay, he instinctively covers his mouth. All eyes turn to him, and classmates ask if something's wrong. Abruptly, he stands and bolts for the bathroom. Relieved of the tension, he emerges, muttering that he knew it was impossible. Then he notices Shimizu waiting outside and freezes, jaw dropping in shock. She looks at him and asks if there's something odd about her waiting by the bathroom, wondering if he's nervous about drawing in front of everyone. She apologizes for pushing him, admitting she didn't realize how he felt. He steps toward her, assuring her it's not her fault and that she doesn't need to apologize. He explains that his old manga was poorly received, and now, whenever he tries to draw, he feels sick. As he walks away, she calls after him, asking if he no longer likes manga. Sadness creeps into his voice as he admits he could never hate it. No matter how hard he tried to abandon it, he couldn't. Deep down, he still yearns for the days when he could draw freely, finding joy and purpose in it. Shimizu asks if he wants to draw, but simply can't, teasingly shouting his name. She playfully suggests a little experiment. Before he can react, she pounces, covering his eyes and challenging his artistic skills. She assures him it might be tough, but pleads for his patience. Amid the chaos, Atego panics. He can't imagine drawing like this. As her body presses against him, strange thoughts flicker through his mind. He pushes them aside, shoves her off, and insists he still can't draw. His hands won't stop trembling. She studies his face, then grabs his hands, suggesting she could help him hold the pen if he can't steady them. He blushes, noticing how small and soft her hands and wrists are. His shock deepens as her hand rests on his shoulder. He's spiraling, convinced he can't focus like this. Meanwhile, she tries guiding his hand, asking if he can draw that way. He stops her, apologizing. Despite her efforts to help, he still believes he can't do it. His hands refuse to cooperate. Shimizu pats his head, stunning him, and tells him not to worry. They can take their time. There's no rush. He looks at her, asking why she's going so far to help him. She pauses, searching for an answer, then smiles and admits she's not sure herself. When she asks if she can visit his house that day, Atego feels uneasy. They'd barely spoken before today, yet he can't bring himself to refuse her, not after all her support. He wonders why she wants to come over. When she arrives at his door, she politely asks to enter. Stepping inside, she's startled by shelves packed with manga and remarks that his room looks like a mangaka's haven. Embarrassed, he awkwardly explains that he just owns a lot of manga, brushing it off with a vague excuse. She asks about his parents, and he evasively says they'll be back soon. Shimizu casually reveals her reason for visiting. She wants to see his debut work. Panic grips Atego. She means the piece that was brutally criticized online. Seeing the excitement in her sparkling eyes, he blurts out that he threw it away, then excuses himself to fetch her a drink. In the kitchen, pouring juice, guilt gnaws at him for lying. He considers making an excuse to send her home, but when he returns, he's stunned to find her sprawled on his bed, flipping through his manga. His cheeks burn as he looks away, mumbling about bringing tea. Shimizu sits up, thanks him, and points out the obvious. He didn't throw it away. It has his name on the cover. She found it on the floor and decided to read it. Mortified, Atego realizes he forgot to hide it properly while tidying up. With a resigned sigh, Shimizu says she's halfway through and plans to finish. Atego watches anxiously as she turns the pages, his mind churning with self-doubt. He's convinced his manga is boring and fears she'll be let down. The online backlash haunts him, and he silently berates himself for ever dreaming of going pro. Just as he's lost in thought, Shimizu snaps the book shut, her face glowing with a wide smile. She declares the story fascinating and calls him a genius. Staggered, Atego recalls the harsh online comments. Skeptical, he hesitantly asks if she really knows enough about manga to judge. Her eyes widen, hurt by his words. Disappointment floods Atego as he realizes he's undermined her genuine praise. Undeterred, Shimizu opens the book to a specific page, pointing to a scene where the injured protagonist is reached out to. She confesses it hit her deeply, resonating with her own past struggles. Curious, Atego asks what she means. She explains that in elementary school, her parents were always working, leaving her alone and lonely. Reading became her refuge, filling her time and saving her from isolation. Atego is moved, realizing they were both saved by manga in their own ways. He apologizes for being dismissive, admitting his lack of confidence often makes him defensive. He confesses that all he ever got was criticism, and deep down, he never figured out how to improve, so he stopped drawing entirely. Shimizu grabs his hand, urging him to sit. She suggests getting direct advice, noting that manga editors often connect with creators online. To prove it, she shows him a post from an editor encouraging submissions. Leaning in excitedly, she invades his space, making him squirm. When she asks why he doesn't try, Atego hesitates. The thought of having his work judged again makes his heart race with anxiety. Nervously, he admits he lacks the courage to face it alone. Shimizu doesn't push further, instead brainstorming ways to motivate him. Atego shares that without deadlines, he struggles to stay driven. Shimizu suggests a system to encourage him, mentioning how makeup tutorials once inspired her to effort. Atego quietly admires how hard she's trying to help, feeling a spark of gratitude. She shows him her phone, casually mentioning she reads manga in the bath. The comment flusters Atego, his imagination running wild as he blushes. Suddenly, Shimizu spots a manga on his shelf, grabs it excitedly, and trips, falling onto him. The brief contact sends him into a panic, but Shimizu, unfazed, teases that she's the one being pushed down this time. He scrambles to apologize, quickly shifting back to her advice. Shimizu cheers him on, saying if there's something he truly wants, it'd be a waste not to try. Their moment is interrupted when someone announces a visitor for Atego. He invites Shimizu to stay for dinner, but she declines, saying it's late and they'll talk more next time. After she leaves, Atego collapses onto his bed, exhausted. Her words echo in his mind. If there's something you truly want to do, it would be a waste not to try. Her faint scent lingers on his blanket, and he can't stop thinking about her encouragement